I think you may have been the first person that I knew, or at least that I heard of, that had a doctorate in cybersecurity.
Mhm.
So, at what point did you make that decision to go through that process? Because that's not an easy journey to pursue a doctorate. So, what led you
Yeah.
there?
So, I don't tell this story often, Will, so I'm glad you asked this question. So I always wanted a PhD. I feel like most people who want a PhD, it's a self personal goal. It's like a life goal, a career goal, whatever you want to call it. And I graduated with my master's information assurance from Dakota State University, and I graduated with like a 4.0, and I was like really tight with all the faculty and stuff because I loved it. Right, I wasn't like a undergrad student who's just like showing up to class and leaving. I'm like actively engaging with the
Right.
faculty and talking about research and stuff. And when I graduated, I said, "Hey, I really want to do a PhD." And they're like, "Okay, cool." And but they didn't have the PhD in cyber operations at the time. So they had a PhD in information systems, and I was like, "Okay, it's not exactly the same, but I'll just make my research in cyber, and that'll be fine." And I took the first semester. I got into that program. I did the first semester, like 2 classes, and, like, maybe 3 weeks into the first semester, I was like, "This is awful. I don't like, this is awful. Like, everything about this is awful." It's, like, painful to even think about wanting to do the schoolwork, let alone actually do the schoolwork. So and, information systems is a much drier, not it's just it's a totally different, discipline than cybersecurity, and it was terrible for me, right? So I contacted the school. I rescinded myself from that program. I said, "Hey, this is just not good." And I talked to the faculty in the cyber sciences department. I said, "Hey, listen, I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, guys. Like, I want a PhD, whatever, but this isn't for me." And they're like, "Okay." And then, like, maybe 3 years later, the program director from Dakota State University reached out to me because I had stayed in contact with them, and they said, "Hey, we got the NSA accredited and the state, of South Dakota Board of Regents accreditation for a PhD in cyber operations, and we would like you to be in the first cohort." So like they reached out to me, so I had to apply, but I mean I was like personally invited basically to be one of the first 12 students to go through that curriculum, which is cool because, we got to kind of figure it out a little bit. I made some
Right.
great lifelong friends going through that program. So, like even today, like many of them I'm still associated with. And yeah, and then talk about day and night, right? So I do the cyber operations PhD, and like first semester, first week, I like can't get enough. It's like just like get me the largest punch bowl you have, fill it up and dunk it on my head and
I
just keep
know.
going, right? Oh, it was so good. And from there I was off and running, and the rest is, they say, is history.
Wow, it's almost like they made that program just for you. It's like, hey,
Eh,
we
Yeah.
lost Jerry on this one. We got to get him back.
Yeah, that would be incredibly flattering, but I will say, so you said it PhD hard. I will tell you this, Will. So like for anyone who's listening or has thought about a PhD, it's two things. One, in a PhD program, the first part is like basically like a hard master's. That's this course stuff. And then there's a research project that it took me like 18 months to do. A lot of people can do it
Oh,
between
wow.
like 12 and 15. Some people take 3, 4 years to do it, but it's a massive research project. You literally write a book. Like I got the book up there. Like basically you print 2 copies. Well, one for yourself and one the library that you get the degree at puts one in their library as well. And then my aunts bought some too, right? But anyways, it's not a book that you get on Amazon. But what I will tell you is that experience, the research part, is so arduous and so lonely and so emotionally trying. It's unbelievable, right? And my wife was incredibly supportive, and even with all of her support, sometimes it's just the content, and like she can't help me write it. She can't help me. She can make life easier for me to be able to focus on it,
Right.
but it's hard. And if you're not really into it's already hard, and if you're not into the topic, if you're not in love with it, with what you're doing, you're going to fail. And in fact, there's actually this concept in academia called ABD, which it's an acronym for all but dissertation. And it's
Mhm.
essentially a moniker labeled on people who complete the core classwork, but fail to do the dissertation research
Right.
project. And it's actually like quite offensive if you refer to someone as an ABD. It's like
Really?
insulting to them. So yeah, it's like a whole academia, higher ed, social caste thing, but it's hard. So yeah, thank you for letting me relive that experience.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing journey. That is something that I don't believe I have in me. I got a bachelor's degree, and I was active duty Army when I got it, and so I actually joined the Army with the hopes of just spending doing my initial 5 year term,
Yeah.
getting out with a degree, and then using whatever skill set plus the degree to go and get another job. Well, I ended up actually retiring and doing a full 20 years in the
Oh
Army,
my gosh.
and I didn't get my degree until the year before I retired. And just because I mean it's just trying to do that full time and then 4 deployments and it was a lot for me to just do the bachelor's degree. So when I got done with that, I was like, I couldn't imagine doing a master's, much less a doctorate. So I have
Oh yeah.
much respect for the people that are dedicated and committed enough to go through that entire process to do a doc, because I know it's a heavy lift, and it's hard. You mentioned it. It's hard on you. It's hard on the family. The family has to support it, and you have to be committed to it 100%. And they're just like you said, times where it's just you and the content and the material, and you just got to put all that together and then make it digestible. So again, hats off to you. Appreciate it. I just don't think I have that in me.
Yeah, no, it's tough. And to really crystallize this for the audience on like what sacrifice would look like. My I have two children. At the time, one was 3 and one was born like while I'm doing this dissertation. Okay, so like that's the level of support my wife has given me on this. And for a period of 6 months, I would put my kids to bed on Sunday night because I was working full time as well. I would put my kids to bed on Sunday night and I wouldn't see them until Tuesday at dinner time for 6 months because I would put them to bed and then I would get up and go to work before they got up. And then I would go to, there's like a Starbucks near me that had like this space where you could kind of work and like lay everything out. So I would do that on Monday nights. And then actually, now that I think about it, I think I would do that on Tuesday nights as well, and I would see them on Wednesday at dinner
Ooh,
because yeah, so I think for 6 months, like that was the routine. So like, in the worst is like getting a letter from your son who said like I can't wait for you to graduate so I can have my dad back. Like, oh, like
wow. Oh,
that's
that's
like a
tough.
punch in the gut. Even
That's
I was like,
tough.
oh, that was really close to the end of the dissertation. So, you just kind of put your head down and plow through it. But sometimes it's easy to say like, oh, like if you don't love it, or like, but when you crystallize like the sacrifice, I think people can really identify like, holy crap, that really is something you got to make the decision on.